bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. How you doing? Yeah, man. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Woo, man, we are back. We're back. Today's Tuesday, September 5th. 247 days into the new year, just 118 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? I hope everybody had a great, safe, fun, awesome Labor Day weekend. I hope you got some time off. Always makes you wonder who's working on Labor Day, and then you just back up and you go, man, I got the day off, and I want to go out to you're going to a restaurant, you go to a movie, you know, you go out, you go to and people are working, and you are not. Does that feel right? I mean, does that feel right? Never did to me. But the truth is, we never take time off here, ever. We just never do. And it was a very strange weekend for us. It was fun. It was cool. It was weird. It was strange. And I'll get to all of that in just a bit. All right. Tonight, very special guest, Justin Deschamps is here. First-time guest. Tomorrow night, Teresa Yanaros is here. First-time guest. Thursday night, we have Gerald O'Donnell here. First-time guest. That's right. John Rappaport's going to be here Thursday night, too, as well, so don't you worry, kiddies. Yeah, he'll be here with us. No More Fake Newsroom Live. The call-in numbers are 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. I'm going to get to some house cleaning here in a second, but do follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Twitter is at JChurchRadio. Simple, at JChurchRadio. Follow us there. I'm a big social media guy, even though it didn't show this weekend. Love social media, love hanging out with everybody, and didn't do it this weekend. But we took the weekend off. No internet, no nothing. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to get to this and break this down. And then the news just started going crazy. And I didn't want to watch television, which we didn't. I didn't want to turn on a computer, which I didn't. But I'm still armed with a cell phone, right? That's giving me news alerts and things. And the news ended up going crazy. So we'll talk about that in just a bit. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Now, we have over 700 archive shows there on the podcast. Custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms. It's just $2 a month. So go to the website, click on the podcast, go download what you need, sign up over at Libsyn, $2 a month. There you go. Very simple. Help support the show. And if you want to become an official Fadernaut, and this is some more house cleaning, just go to our membership area. And you can go from free all the way down to full-blown Game Changer. The Game Changer is going to have autographed hats. T-shirts and all that stuff. You're going to get the bunker cam. You're going to get an email, private email to me just for the Fadernauts. And, of course, commercial-free downloadable archives, all in the membership area. Okay, now, we got all caught up on all of the shipping that we had to do. And we did it like in a few different runs. And we ran out of 4X shirts. So those are getting printed up this week. So if you became a game changer and you did 4X, some 4X went out, some didn't. Okay, so just be patient. And those that were 4Xs will be getting those either late this week or early next week. Okay? Let's see. House cleaning. Where was I with the house cleaning? Well, you know what? That's good enough. That's good enough for now. Don't forget about all of our sponsors. All of our sponsors that keep this show running. And that's the bottom line here. These days, I think everybody, and I don't know why when I say everybody, for some reason there's this trend out there that the internet audiences expect everything to be free with no commercials, right? They expect people to do things, and it's comical to me how I'll get email, dude, man, in your YouTube videos, why are there commercials? You know what? My answer to that, and I have this, I have a cut and paste, a cut and paste reply email to those people, and it says this: look, man, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You go to work for the next 2 years, and every week when you get your paycheck, you give the paycheck back to your boss. Just give it to him every single week for 2 years straight. That's it. And if you pull that off, we'll pull our commercials. Because it's the same thing. Would you work for free? Live on the streets. No house, no car, no food, no clothes. You can't feed your children, your wife, your dog, nothing. But you're still going to get up every single day and go to work. No food, no breakfast, no nothing. Do that for 2 years and then get back to me. All right? It's the same thing. So anyway, back to this. All of our sponsors are what allows this show to broadcast for free. It's not hidden behind some paywall. This isn't a subscription service. This isn't some podcast. This is a live radio show. And what allows that to happen, and it's called America, right? It's called advertising. And that's it. That's why the ads are there. So you can listen to this for free. So you can go to YouTube and listen to it for free. So you can come to this, any one of our syndicators, for free. Man, quit complaining. Anyway, all of our sponsors, who are the best members of this family: Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, who sent me the most wonderful email this week to Rita and myself. And by the way, they sent us, you know what? And thank you for that. Their response to the Fadernauts was just the loveliest letter ever. And so, again, from River Moon to all of you, thank you. From Ronnie McMullen over at Life Change Tea, thank you. New Pharma, Chip Paul, an unbelievable email that I just got from him, too, as well. They just love this family that is over here. Okay, now, Studio Dome speakers. Sacred Skulls, I think their banners are now up over at jimmychurchradio.com. Yeah, it's expensive. It's really expensive. But you know what? It's artwork. It is the real deal stuff. The prices are going to shock you. It is. But it is one-of-a-kind art. Okay, fine art. Sacred Skulls. Go check it out. And believe, this is what's crazy. Believe this. Gotten like 5 different people that are going to get Sacred Skulls. Thank you. That's all I've got to say. Thank you. Sacred Skulls. Amazing art. Okay, Judy Kyle. All right, man, I'm just so excited to be here and enjoyed this weekend that we had. So with that, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Michael Keaton, 66 years old. Makes the cut. Why? Beetlejuice. That's why. Always will make the cut. Rose McGowan today is 44. Our dead guy's birthday today, Jack Daniel. Yeah. 1850 to 1911, died at the age of 61. Yes, the Jack Daniel of Jack Daniels. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday. On this day in history, OTD. 1957, On the Road by Jack Kerouac is published. On this day in 1957. There's a game changer for you. Not Jack Daniel, Jack Kerouac. He was probably drinking Jack Daniel while he wrote the book. Fate or fact, there are no reported cases of runners dying of dehydration during marathons. But there are plenty of cases of runners dying from water intoxication after the marathon. And there you go. That is a fate or fact. Tonight, very special guest, Justin Deschamps is here. Tomorrow night, Teresa Yanaros. And Thursday, we're going to have Gerald O'Donnell here instead of a normal fader night. But we will, of course, take phone calls. And John Rappaport's going to be here with his No More Fake Newsroom Live. And so there you go. We have a great week. All first-time guests here on Fade to Black. Now, I started to say, this is the point in the opening of the show when I take my hit of River Moon coffee. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, we had sort of a relaxing extended Labor Day weekend, and I truly hope that you guys did too as well. We cut down a tree in the front of our house. We posted some videos of that, and it came very close to me when I yelled timber, and we posted the video. Rita says she was watching from upstairs and that the tree didn't even come close to me, and she's laughing. I think it was pretty close. But so we did that, and that took 2 days in 112-degree heat, by the way. And at the same time, we had a fire blazing here in Burbank, right up to the edge of Burbank. Parts of Burbank were evacuated. And you really have this kind of time. I don't know what you're referring to, Rita. Okay, expand on that. I'm not sure what she means. Then we had the aftermath of Harvey, right? Irma is brewing out there in the Caribbean. And then there was the news of North Korea testing another hydrogen bomb. And it was just a bizarro, surreal weekend. We had stuff to do. We're going to different home improvement stores, and we're doing things at the house as well as pull the tree stump and cut this tree down. We're doing other things, and we had a few days off, and we're trying to get all of that done as well as prepare for the show this week. And so while we're running around doing all of this, and it just ignored the internet and it ignored the news and just disconnected, it was feeling pretty good. And then these news things started to kick off, and we knew about Harvey, and then now we've got another hurricane, and then North Korea, and what that meant to you knew that was going to stir the pot with China and Russia and the United Nations, and Trump is going to say his stuff, and Tillerson's going to jump in, and Mattis. You knew all of this was going to happen, but it was scary stuff. And then I headed down to Jason Martell's house yesterday for a little weekend get-together, trying to escape it all, and got a couple hours in of disconnect. Listening to the radio going down there and back was just all North Korea. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, as I did jump in and check out, the Twitter feed, Elon Musk spent part or most of his Labor Day weekend tweeting about World War III. Yeah. And Musk wasn't making doomsday predictions because of North Korea. and their testing of nuclear weapons, what's got Musk so much more worried about the world is artificial intelligence. So I had to stop and take notice about what he was trying to say. In one tweet, he said North Korea should be low on our list of concerns for civilizational existential risk. Competition for AI superiority at a national level most likely cause of World War III. In my own opinion, he did the IMO after that. The prediction was in response to a recent comment from Putin, who said, and I'm quoting here, artificial intelligence is the future, not only of Russia, but of all mankind. Whoever becomes the leader in this sphere will become the ruler of the world, end quote. Now, at the moment, to be sure, the leaders in AI are the United States, China nipping on our heels, and India. India is, some code writing fools over there, right? And that's the AI race right now. Russia's not in on it, not quite. And then Musk, after that tweeted again, and he said, it's crazy. Governments don't need to follow normal laws. They will obtain AI developed by companies at gunpoint, if necessary. Think about that. Elon Musk speculated in another tweet that an AI system could choose to start a war if it decides that a preemptive strike is more probable and to victory. And I'm like, Elon, what are you doing, dude? It's Labor Day weekend. This is about barbecues and disconnected, taking the day off. And he is just fanning these flames. Now, he has repeatedly issued warnings about AI. I talk about it a lot on this show. I talk about AI a lot on this show. I talk about the singularity, these fears, the AI police, all of this, right? And he is saying we need all of that regulation to happen now to keep the public safe. And I get that. I do. It's going to happen. AI, when it crosses the line, it's going to happen so fast that we may not have a chance to respond. All of the sitting around and talking about it, is it possible? Is it real? Who's working on it? Is it evil? Is it not? Is it government? Is it DARPA? Is it Sandia? Is it Google? Is it Elon and Neuralink? What's going on? We can sit around and debate this all we want. But when that line crosses, it's going to be too late. So we do need some police there. We've got to have some regulatory commission agency ready to pull the plug on this if we need to. We need the doomsday AI switch. And then, after all of this, Mark Zuckerberg chimes in. And he's calling Musk AI doomsday rhetoric pretty irresponsible. That's according to Zuckerberg. And then Musk jumps back and says he responds to Zuckerberg's response, to Elon's response, to Putin's response that was in response to Musk. This was the weekend. Musk responded back by calling Zuckerberg's understanding of AI limited. Now, Facebook, Google too, and Elon's working on it. He's working on that neural connection to a computer. But Zuckerberg's advancement into AI and the way that Facebook works today and the ability to connect and stay a step ahead of half of the world's population, which is what Facebook does, I think Zuckerberg knows exactly what's going on. And to think about Facebook starting off as some kind of weird friendship, trying to hook up with girls thing that they tried to do in the very beginning, turning into what it is today, I think Zuckerberg knows exactly what he's doing with AI. And Musk knows this. But this tit-for-tat thing that is going on is strange. All the while, to turn around and have Musk say, that our priorities need to be lower on North Korea. And this is where, for me, too many people listen to Musk, including myself. Too many people listen to him. And by making that kind of statement is damaging because, realistically speaking, we screwed up with North Korea. And how do I mean that? We should have done the stuff that we're talking about now. North Korea should have been dealt with 15 or 20 years ago, way before all of this. Way before. And I'm talking about, you know what I would have done is the first missile shot, the first one, I would have said, okay, all right, okay, cool. But the next one that you shoot, we're going to take out everything. We're going to take out all of your missiles. We're going to take out that. We're going to take out that. You want to attack Seoul? You want to get into another war? That's fine. We're there. We're there to match. But you fire one more missile, and we're going to take out all of your missile research and all of your missile technology. We will do it now. Every laboratory is going to be burnt down. Done. And we didn't. So now, here we are 15 years later, and we have got a real problem on our hands. We just had a second hydrogen bomb test go down. And if it is, and these can be scaled back and forth, if it is small enough to fit on a missile, which right now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it will be 6 months from now, the way that they're going. A year from now, right? And that threat now puts everything in a whole nother category. Now we have a real problem. And I'll give you an example. Probably what's going to happen is we got to let it go. We've got to let them have their nuclear. There's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can do. And if, let's say, this is the problem that they have. Let's say the Philippines is pissed off because North Korea is fishing in their fishing waters. And the Philippines say, you know what, back off, man. This is our territory. And North Korea goes, hey, man, we'll nuke you if you don't shut up. That's that's what's going on there now. To the north, to the south, to the east, to the west. They can do whatever they want. Now we are stuck. So let's suppose that the only way to answer with North Korea right now is to get it on. Get it on. Okay? Is that a bad thing? Okay, we're going to lose 30,000 American soldiers. We're going to lose 100,000 people in Seoul. We got to evacuate the city. We're going to have the economic issues. We're going to have people injured in Japan and so forth. You know, okay, all right, that sounds horrible, right? Let me tell you what's really horrible. 12 months from now, something gets shot into Los Angeles. Think about that. That is what is horrible. Something gets shot into Tokyo. You know, literally incinerating Seoul. A softball underarm pitch of a nuclear weapon 30 miles away. Just right there. But this is the world that we have now. We didn't deal with it 15 years ago. So what's the choice? If we go back to World War II, before Hitler invaded Poland, and you had that choice sitting in front of you, you know what? What do we do, man? We should just go in and start bombing Berlin now and stop everything, you know, and preventing the invasion of France and invasion of Poland and all of the other Eastern and all of the European countries that Hitler turned around and just invaded. He took over and all of the millions of lives that were lost. But nobody did anything. Appeasement, man. Let's just sit on our hands. Let's just, put our head in the sand and ignore it. Oh, okay. World War II happened. And it was unbelievable. And here we are. Do we want? No, we don't want a world war. But the things that are on the table right now are frightening. And that's why I chose appeasement this weekend. I put my head in the sand. I disconnected from the internet. I avoided everything, and this kind of stuff starts popping up, and it just makes you wonder, how did we get here? How did we get here? It's absolutely amazing. It's just the whole thing is just a fascinating thing. How it's going to play out and how we're going to look back in world history and come back to 2017 and talk about these times and how we got here. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't. But what do we do right now? How do we what's the next step? What is it? I just don't know. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Justin Deschamps. He is here. Full conversation. Stillness in the storm. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at KGRAradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. KGRAradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Wow, kicking off another week here, but we're doing it on a Tuesday. And today is day one of our Age of Disclosure week. Okay, and that's today. Tomorrow, Teresa Yanaros is going to be here. Thursday night, Gerald O'Donnell is going to be here. And all of this is combined with everything that we are doing with UniWiki, uniwiki.org, Modern Masters, all of the other teachers in our community that are here to help spread the knowledge. And one of them is Justin Deschamps. And he was born in Portland, Maine, and grew up in the Boston area. As a physics, psychology, and spirituality student, he has been searching for the truth all of his life, looking to make sense of it all in this insane world of ours. In that time, he has developed a holistic body of knowledge, linking science, philosophy, and spirituality into a single framework of ever-expanding understanding. Now, he wants to share what he has with the world, becoming a teacher to some and a student to others. His goal is to help himself and others become truth seekers, and within the wisdom gained in the process, that make this planet the paradise it was meant to be. He says he is happy to give back to a world and universe he received so much from. Now, the path of truth in a world of deception is not a lonely journey, and together we can make this world a better place. Each of a person is essential for gaining a complete picture of the whole truth, setting aside egocentric concepts of what is right and wrong. People can begin to walk the path of truth as one people, united for change, to find that inner light and radiate it outwardly for all to see. Of course, his website is stillnessinthestorm.com, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Justin Deschamps. Justin, good evening, my friend.
Hey, what's up, Jimmy? Good to be here.
Man, listen to that radio pipes of Justin. Hey, good evening, my friend. And before we get started, you know what's coming, so I'm going to do it now. We're going to do the first-time guest disclaimer. We got to get it out of the way, which is this. It's just you and I sitting on my couch talking as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Man, I know that I'm going to start here because I know that I've cracked a couple of jokes and kind of made light of your wordiness, right? But it is so well written, and every day I go there, I spent all day today. I mean, really, you did some really good updates on the site today, but I spent so much time reading your stuff throughout the day, and I kick back and I'm like, man, Justin, it's so good, and I can't stop reading it. It's so long. It takes, but it's just really, and it's a compliment, and you know that. Where do you find the time, and how do you seek this stuff out to write these compositions that you do for everybody?
This is a full-time gig for me. I'm basically doing this 100% of my time, and the information comes from a lot of different places. I use an RSS feed. I follow a whole bunch of different websites, a whole bunch of different content producers, and just do my own organic research. So I'm constantly running into really interesting information and trying to figure out ways to present it to the audience. So,
and through this, because you, with your education, which is an amazing part of this, but for you to go down this road, it seems through your reading that every day you're finding out that things are getting stranger and weirder as each day goes by. And I see that in your writing. Is that where you're coming from?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like you're reading in my intro, I mean, I've basically been doing this whole truth-seeking gig for a long time, even before I had my wake-up experience. And I kind of noticed that there was a lot of crossover between areas. I mean, I was a big science geek, and I still am. So I was really into like biology, psychology, and I saw a lot of the same basic concepts reflected in other areas. And I thought, it's much as it seems like there's all these different versions of truth out there, it really just seems like there's one version behind the veil, so to speak. So with that idea in mind, kind of tried to bring that core philosophy or that core concept to the forefront, but through the dissemination of a whole bunch of different pieces of information. So I'm kind of looking for the one truth in all things, if that makes any sense.
Well, it does, because you have a science background and a physics background, which can be fairly pragmatic, and you have all of the stuff that goes into what science is about, right? And that part of the education, and where you are now with spirituality and the other things, enlightenment and awakening and consciousness and certainly disclosure and what is involved with all of that. Now you're in the area of what traditionally is tinfoil hat territory. And that's a pretty interesting transition to go from being black and white, science-based, to where you are today. What that's not a comfortable transition, is it?
Certainly. No, not at all. I mean, and that's a great point, because let's see, where do I start the story? I mean, my wake up experience began in 2010 through seeing a movie about cures for cancer, the Gerson Miracle, with Dr. Max Gerson. And prior to this, I was your kind of typical card-carrying scientism follower. I was devoutly atheist. Any type of concepts of spirituality or energy medicine, I was the guy that was trying to debunk them. And I thought I had all the answers. I thought I had it all figured out. And then I see this movie with cures for cancer being discussed, and this guy, Max Gerson, discovering this back in 1928 and then presenting his findings to Congress in 1946. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how can this be true? Because I don't know about it. So there's your first indication of a little fallacy. And then secondly, my scientific antennas were really perking up, because I'm looking at this information. I ended up reading his book, The Gerson Therapy. I read a whole bunch of other reports, medical journals, debunkings, trying to disprove it to myself. And I ended up proving it to myself as a result. So that really kind of unlocked a lot of the what I would call like deep intuitive, mystical side of me that was really online when I was a younger kid, but through my exposure to religion, I kind of just dismissed anything spiritual, anything, well, they weren't called conspiracies back then, but anything that wasn't accepted by mainstream media, science news as BS, basically. So now I've kind of come full circle. Now I'm like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where I don't care how crazy the video is or the headline or how clickbait it is. If it has a piece of truth in there, I want to know about it, and I'm going to dig right into the muck and try to pull out discern the golden strands of truth from the rough edges, so to speak. So yeah.
It must have been, because that's pretty dramatic. And that kind of shift, I hate to use that kind of paradigm shift, but that's exactly what it was. Were you walking around stunned for a couple of days? I've done it. I've had my awakenings a few times, and you can walk around stunned a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, what really got me is about the cures for cancer thing was that, I'm reading these statistics, and 500,000 people die every year in the United States alone. And those were numbers from 2010. So who knows what they're at now.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, Jesus, how is it that all these people can be dying and these cures for cancers exist, and there's nothing happening. There's no seemingly dissemination of the information. They're not putting it on the news anywhere. You can't even go to talk to. I remember I tried to have a conversation with my uncle. He's a medically trained doctor, and he thought I was crazy. He didn't even want to hear what I had to say. He says, "Nope, sorry, those things don't exist." So,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like that red pill experience. When you learn a piece of truth, and this is what's so incredible about the truth-seeking experience, is all it takes is one little nugget of truth to completely shatter your belief systems, and you go down the rabbit hole.
But let me jump back here. Let's take two steps back. You mentioned you were a devout atheist, and science-based. Were you a follower of Dawkins? Were you a Richard Dawkins guy too?
I did come across his work. I think I was in my mid-20s. My father, he's a big Richard Dawkins fan. my father was raised Catholic, so he was like vehemently opposed to religion after he escaped from it. And he didn't necessarily push that onto us as children, but, you know, he let us come up with our own beliefs. And then after I started showing similar views to him, we would talk back and forth. And so, yeah, I was familiar with him, but not too devoutly into Dawkins.
With your transition from being devout, science-based atheist into where you are today, is there hope for somebody like Dawkins?
Oh, yeah. I mean, anybody can make the transition. You just have to be brave. I mean, it really comes down to going through that kind of soul transformation process, because from a psychological perspective, your beliefs are the thing that give order to your experience. And if you didn't have a belief system, every moment of your life would be like an insane acid trip from hell.
Right.
So, you know, yeah. So, like, is it possible for people to change their beliefs and have a better belief system that's more accurate for reality? Absolutely. Are they likely to do that without getting nudged a little bit if they're kind of they've walled themselves up in their own belief system? Probably not. And then you add celebrity to the mix, and now it's even harder, because now your image, that the thing that you rely on for ego gratification, for lack of a better term, is potentially at risk if you go around saying, well, maybe I was wrong about the whole atheism thing.
That is Dawkins, actually. That's 100. He is so he's stuck, right? He can't. There's no way he can get out. And what's weird I want to go back to the science side of things. When we look at the possibility of God, no God, religion, no religion, but yet here we are, the miracle of us being here and the universe being created, and then the possibility of there being a creator out there, but it's not actually God. And now scientists are, this is where we're at today. Scientists are now tripping. They're like, okay, now we know so much about science that the only way that this could have happened to achieve the scientific odds of this actually happening, something out there had to be involved. So now their science side of themselves, the atheist side of themselves, they're all a little bit confused right now. And they're wondering if there is something special out there. That is kind of what's going on. Do you think that the interdimensional, all-knowing being world and science and the way that we became are starting to merge together?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say, taking in all factors, yes. If we consider everything, every possible sphere of influence of people's personal lives, you know, the lives of atoms, the lives of the planets, then yes, that is definitely the case, because in my opinion, we're always trending towards more spirituality and more merging and unification. That being said, though, at a kind of world man level, at a materialist level, if you look at the sciences, especially the humanities, so the sciences, physics, electrical engineering, astronomy, things like this, these are the hard sciences. And then you have philosophy, epistemology, and psychology, and these are the soft sciences. Well, you wouldn't think they would be working together, but they are, because your capacity to make sense of the data you're receiving from your experiments requires philosophy.
That's right.
And what's happened is that materialism really took over. I mean, it was already starting to take over towards the end of the 19th century. By the beginning of the 20th century, with the discovery of the wave-particle duality phenomenon, now the solipsists, or the people who don't believe in objective truth, started to make inroads, and they started to deconstruct or break down modernism. And modernism is founded as a philosophy founded on the idea that there is objective truth, there is absolute truth.
You know, you know what? I just realized, Justin, and I hope that you can hear me. We had a CME. We had a coronal mass ejection off of the sun yesterday, and it's going to start hitting Earth between today and tomorrow. We're going to have some of the craziest electrical interferences, and that may be what's going on right now. But yeah, it could be contributing to a lot of things. And what about the mood of the planet? We just came off of the eclipse, and it seems like, and I noticed that all the negativity out there and things that are happening, not only with the weather, but the mindset of the world right now, the response instantly is, well, it's the eclipse. The eclipse is causing it. But it has been a pretty crazy 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it certainly has. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in almost every sector, it seems like. Yeah, there's a lot of energetic stuff happening. And, one thing I thought of while you were mentioning the hurricane is that if these guys are blasting the atmosphere with HAARP waves and things like this to try to make the hurricane more powerful, then that's probably messing with things too.
And I don't think it's any I don't think it's any coincidence that we had Harvey and Irma just like barely a week apart. And they're huge Category 4, Category 5 storms. This is not a joke. And I don't know what's going to happen on the backside of that, which takes me to this next question. Stillness in the storm. It cannot be a more accurate title than what is going on right now globally. It is truly the stillness in the storm.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and that one of the meanings of stillness in the storm is that all of the chaos that's happening around the world, we're helping to bring order to through our inner work and our consciousness. When we do these meditations, and this is something that's really cool, is your mind and your heart work together to attenuate or create a bioelectric field around your body. Your heart is an electric pump. It produces a massive electromagnetic field. It radiates about 30 feet around the body. It does it through the liquid piezoelectric pump of your heart, and then your brain attenuates that based on your emotions. So when you actually get into a meditative state, what's happening is you're synchronizing your brain and heart. You're making your body coherent, and now that has a capacity to link up with the earth. So now you can help stabilize the geomagnetic field of the earth. And then when you get other people to do that, when we do these mass meditations, the Maharishi effect, that's literally what we're doing is we're bringing stillness and coherence to the chaotic energy systems of the planet. And that's at a consciousness level, that's at an electromagnetic level, that's at a weather level, that's at a seismology level. So we're literally helping to still the storms of the world by working on ourselves and then coming together to do this meditation.
And when we have the combination of the headlines in the news, we have catastrophic weather that not only in the United States, not only in the Caribbean, but it's in Bangladesh, it's in India. It's like 20 different hotspots of flooding around the world all at the same time. And then when you combine that with the other stuff that is going on, we have a lot to meditate for. There is something going on right now.
So one of the things that biologically what's happening when you're in a fearful state is your awareness gets heightened so you can deal with whatever the problem is. So if you hear some weird noise in the woods, what happens? Your focus and attention gets really centered on the now. It's almost like time slows down and you're trying to figure out what's happening. And then once you've gotten a good explanation of what's happening, then the fear starts to ebb a little bit and you can go back to being calm. Well, you can use that same principle at a life level, at a social level, and at a global level. All of these things that are happening right now on the planet, we don't necessarily want to fuel the fire, but at the same time, by making ourselves aware of these issues, we can start to bring order to them. We can bring stillness to these storms with our consciousness, and I think that's what this great work that we're trying to do is all about.
Yeah, because if you deal with it enough on the micro level, the macro is going to take care of itself.
Bingo, exactly. I mean, in that sense, if we want to get really high, the creator is the ultimate source of coherence. So let me see if I can explain this. It's a little sciencey, but this concept is so fundamental. When you grasp this concept, it applies in so many areas, and it's called entrainment. So if I wouldn't do it now because we're on the radio, but after the show, do a YouTube search for metronomes synchronizing. And what you're going to see is a series of 4 metronomes that are ticking away at different beats sitting on a table. And they're all at completely different BPMs, or beats per minute. But then as the guy takes the board that they're resting on, he places it on 2 tin cans. Now the beats they start to push against the board, and then in turn they push against each other, and then they slowly start to kind of mingle and dance with each other. And then after about a minute or so, all of a sudden they start to tick in unison, and then before you know it, these things are ticking perfectly in unison with each other. And that's called entrainment. So the principle at work here is it's called information distribution or sympathetic resonance. And what's happening is the information within those individual metronomes, because they're coming together and they're working in an open space where their individual signatures can be shared, now they form a harmony together, and now that entrains the entire system. So you could think about the entire universe as the same thing. The universe is incredibly coherent, and it's huge. It's this massive pulse of enormous energy. So really, we have all of the entire universe around the Earth and the solar system kind of nudging us to be more orderly, more loving, more understanding, more ethical, more moral, more wise. And all we really got to do is ride that wave. So while there's still a lot of work to be done, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's all a walk in the park. All you really have to do is just be willing to do the work. And then all of these synchronicities start happening, all these things start happening, you start meeting new people, and you're like, oh, wow, they're really into the same things I am. And before you know it, you're on a path and you're running like you didn't even think of it. So
let's take a break.
That's how powerful opening yourself up is.
I want to continue this conversation right after the break. Entrainment. Yeah, I have seen the metronome. That is an amazing video when you see that go down. Our guest tonight, Justin Deschamps. Stillness in the Storm. This is Fade to Black, day one of our Age of Disclosure week here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. More with Justin right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS
and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Day one. Day one of our Age of Disclosure Week. Tomorrow night, Teresa Yanaros is going to be here. Thursday night, Gerald O'Donnell. And tonight, it's Justin Deschamps. And Justin, I want to stay really quick on entrainment. Because also today you wrote a piece on Cobra, and the two are kind of intermingled, and I want to get to that. But when we talk about entrainment, and everybody starts to get into an aligned frequency or thought patterns, and this expands exponentially. Is it possible to do just that and get us all into, I don't want to say lockstep, but that's exactly what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think, I think an easy way to think about entrainment and just how powerful it is you think about like an orchestra. When the orchestra first gets handed a piece of music and you demand that they play it in 20 minutes, you know, they're probably not going to do too great of a job. They're going to be out of sync with each other. But if they practice it and they get to know each other and they learn the various quirks and foibles that need to be worked into the piece, they're going to play it like masters after a long time. And it probably won't require all that much dedicated effort. But I think for humanity, I mean, we have so many things in common, and these are undeniable. I mean, we all yearn, we all want to know what's happening. We all need to know what's happening. And especially in the awakening community and the truther movement, I mean, we're all seemingly searching for the same answers, and yet it's so easy to get divided into camps, and that's not helping us in what I like to call the great work, which is the transformation of the planet back into a healthy society for human beings and living things. So, being in lockstep, actually working with each other, developing the capacity to speak with each other, hearing other people, all that's like really important, because that's us opening ourselves up to begin this lockstep or synchronization process.
I want to talk about your Cobra update briefly, because what was interesting to me is at the end of your announcement with Cobra, you talk about light forces and how to focus. We have Hurricane Irma and so forth, and then you give instructions on how to do just that, right? And I want to go through those steps, because you have fans that are here tonight to listen to you on Fade to Black. That's great. Then there is a huge audience tonight that has not gone through these steps or heard from you how to start to make this transformation and possibly start you on your path to being awakened. And the way that you do it, and I've seen you do it publicly too, is very cool. So I kind of want to do a combination of both. But tell us about the Cobra announcement today.
Sure. Well, he put out an update. I think it was like 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. today. I just reposted it. And he was talking about some various things dealing with the light forces and the resistance movement. So if I remember correctly, this black stone, I believe it's the black stone of Mecca, was starting to disintegrate, which is a meteor from, I think, one of these dark groups out there. And then he had called for a meditation to try to dampen the effects of the severe weather we're receiving, which is what we touched on earlier. So Cobra's interesting. Cobra I found early in my awakening. I didn't really know what to make of him. I mean, kind of like Corey Good and some of these other whistleblowers, they present a lot of information, but you don't have a lot of confirmation or evidence to support. So you kind of got to just take it with a grain of salt and see what happens. And one of the reasons I like to share Cobra's information is it has a lot for you to think about, but it doesn't necessarily give you proof. And what that does is it kind of exercises your research and philosophic skills so that you can assess information, because right now there's this big campaign that if it can't be proven or substantiated, that it's not even worthy of you thinking about it. And I don't think that's the case at all. I would actually argue that untrue information is just as important to expose yourself to and discern as true information. And you could kind of think about, this process is like an alchemical process. We're making the philosopher's stone of true knowledge in our mind. And around that central core of unified, holistic, brilliant light truth is all of the banana peels and the garbage and the empty wrappers and things from the discarded truths that we knew weren't actually accurate. And it was through that distillation process that we really started to hone and purify our knowledge. And so, again, Cobra's a really good example of that. So,
do you think it is possible for us to meditate Irma away? I mean, if the entire planet meditated at the exact same time, could Irma be dissolved?
I think if we really got on our game and we all had the same visual image in mind and the same process for executing it, we could remake the planet. We could manifest anything we wanted. I mean, we could do a lot of amazing things, including dealing with Hurricane Irma.
With Harvey and with Irma, do you think that these could be man-made storms? Do you think this could be maybe Russia or China messing with us?
Yeah, I think it's definitively a possibility. I mean, one of the things that I've looked into through studying the weather is that we're living on a single planet here, and the weather in particular is all interconnected. So as soon as you start messing with weather in one part of the world, it's going to cause effects in another part of the world. And you can't really, it's not like you can just focus on the United States without causing issues elsewhere. So I think this is what I suspect to be the case. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm pretty sure they have total weather dominance, exactly like they were talking about in the 60s. We want to own the weather is what I forget where it was actually stated that, but I think that's what happened is now they're at a point where we've been messing with the weather for so long, we can't just flip the chemtrail and the harp off and expect everything to go back to sunshine.
Once you start messing with the traditional weather patterns, the way that this planet, Mother Earth, has been running for so long, you start to mess with it, you are going to get a negative out of whatever you are doing. We have wanted to. The best way to wage war right now is not through weapons. Give somebody a drought, flood a country, do that, and then you don't have to look like the bad guy. You just blame it on Mother Nature, but it's actually being used as a weapon. And I think maybe flood them out and mess with their economy to keep them in line. And now I think those same weapons are being used against us. Do you think that's a possibility?
Most definitely. I think at this point, all weather is influenced at some degree. And the way these guys work is they don't leave any opportunity ungrasped for. So if there's a chance to cause a drought somewhere, if there's a chance to cause fear in Florida and make people, go out and buy things or just be in fear. I mean, there's so many different goals they're trying to achieve. So, yes, I think this weather is most likely being influenced at some level.
Now, when you ask people to meditate, and for instance, like right now, the focus would be on Irma, what would be the techniques that you would suggest to somebody that maybe hasn't meditated before?
Sure. Well, generally speaking, just bringing balance to your own consciousness is a huge step. So, and the really good way to do that is it's called the Vipassana meditation. You just sit there quietly and you observe your own breathing. I like to count my breaths too because I got kind of an active mind, so I got to give it something to do. So I like to count my breaths. I'll visualize the number 1 as I breathe in, and then one as I breathe out. So in and out with the same number. And if you can do that, that'll really bring you into a great state of theta consciousness. That's that's like just before you're about to sleep, the daydreaming kind of consciousness. That's when your heart and your mind are really entrained well. You're putting out a lot of coherent electromagnetic energy, and that's going to be really helpful for all sorts of things. Now, on top of that, you could also do a visualization. And there are all sorts of different ways to visualize things. Generally speaking, you want to kind of be, you want to phrase your visualizations in a positive way. So you're going to, if you're going to have an affirmation in your meditation, like I want world peace, you say world peace exists. So it's a positive statement, not I want the end of all war. So that would be an apophatic or negative statement.
Right.
And finally, I'll just leave it with when two or more people try to visualize the same thing, they're not going to get it perfect. But there is this thing called visualization coherence. So the more readily that people can actually visualize or represent a singular image in all of their minds, that is going to add more power to the effect, the Maharishi effect, which is the reduction of crime and things like this.
And how much time should somebody spend on a meditation session? Is this 15 minutes? Is this 30 minutes? Is this 5 minutes?
The synchronized meditations are usually 15 minutes, so that they're coordinated in that way. They expect people to ideally be sitting in that meditative state for 15 minutes. But you don't have to. I mean, if we want to open it up, if we're just talking about meditation in general, I mean, just if you can really get into a good practice of meditating, you can do what's called walking meditation. And really all you're doing then is in between moments when you're getting up to go to the bathroom or you're cooking or you're washing dishes or whatever it happens to be, you're just observing yourself and your breaths as you're doing that. And that really has a profoundly similar effect of balancing the mind and heart, even though you're in the middle of doing some activity.
How do you define infinite existence?
Oh, boy. You're just going to pop that on me, huh?
Yep. Well, yeah, because we're going to spend a lot of time on this from here on out. But how do you define it?
No, yeah, that's a great question. Well, infinite existence. Well, firstly, the word infinite, even though it's usually used colloquially and in modern parlance to refer to manyness or a lot of things. So if you can think about the biggest number you can think of, then maybe that's what your concept of infinity is. But that's not infinity. Infinity is the opposite of finiteness. It's the opposite of manyness. So the opposite of manyness is singularness. So the word infinite actually breaks down. The first prefix is in, which means the opposite, and then the word finite. So it's actually saying opposite of finite. So infinite existence, well, from a creature point of view, from our point of view, since we're finite creatures, the way we can conceptualize infinity is a few different ways. First of all, if you imagine climbing up a mountain, and every time you make a step up the mountain, the summit actually just gets further away from you, that's a concept of infinity right there. Actually, Nassim Haramein, he put out a presentation a few years back where he took the two triangles, one pointed down, one pointing up. They are equilateral triangles. And when you impose them on each other, you get the typical Star of David formation. Well, then if you take each of the triangles that is created by the Star of David, which are 6 smaller triangles rotated outwards, and you place another triangle on that, then that creates a fractal pattern. Now you have the 6 triangles become their own miniature versions of the Star of David. And then you can keep doing that and keep doing it. And then eventually what you have is what's called a bounded infinity, so that within the circumscribed space, you have infinite divisions or infinite breaking up. And it's basically what we are. We are bounded infinity. So the more that we experience things, the more that we have the capacity to derive meanings from our experiences. So it's like a feedback loop.
This is live radio, and we're going to reset the connection, and we are going to be right back with our guest, Justin Deschamps. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, I'm Matt Ray for U.S. Gold Bureau. I cover the market daily. No matter how strong it gets or what long-term predictions say, you can count on one thing as certain. There will be another crash. It will affect your assets. And when it happens, wouldn't you rather be 2 weeks or even 2 months ahead of the curve? Well, Wall Street insiders have been quietly converting their assets into gold for the last few years. Now it's your turn. Buying gold and silver is easier than buying stocks. With the U.S. Gold Bureau's Investor Guide, it's free, and you learn how to buy precious metals in or out of an IRA or 401k retirement plan. Your investment's shipped directly to your home and is 100% insured and guaranteed. You control your investments and shelter them against the stock market, politics, and unknown threats. Act while your dollar is still worth something. Call U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD. U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD, 800-885-GOLD. Call today.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Very simple. Today is our day one of our Age of Disclosure Week. Our guest tonight is Justin Deschamps. Of his website, of course, is Stillness in the Storm. And we just reset the lines. Justin, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, now we've got a good, solid connection. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're so good. Now, over the past, over the past weekend, last weekend, I hit all of the presenters at Eclipse of Disclosure with one question, and I want to do that now because your answer was great, and that is this. What is your definition of disclosure?
Well, I think disclosure is about first seeking to open yourself up to the truth or some new thing. So it's something you have to start. And, when we hear about disclosure, especially about extraterrestrials or free energy technology, it's often about getting the government or somebody else to do something. So I think what we can do, because we have more control over ourselves than other people, is we can open ourselves up and we can begin that process of being open-minded, being discerning, and actually listening to people. A lot of times what happens, especially when you start talking about conspiracies or politics or something like that, is people get really reactionary and, they become very intolerant. They don't want to hear what somebody else has to say. But being able to listen to what somebody has to say and then being able to share information in a kind way, compassionate way, you can either share the truth like handing somebody something nice that they want, or you can share the truth by smacking them upside the head with like a 2x4. And yeah, you're going to deliver the message either way, but is the person going to have to do some type of emotional healing work afterwards? It's probably going to be the case if you don't take your time and be a little bit more compassionate. So I think disclosure is more than just about extraterrestrials or free energy. It's about us doing the inner work, being able to receive information, and then being kind and courteous and compassionate with people when we share information.
Why is it that most expect help? They want somebody to do it. It's the opposite of doing something for yourself. They want E.T. to come here and save the earth. Why isn't E.T. coming here and saving the earth? Why isn't somebody doing this for me or doing that? Why do we fall into that trap? And it is a global phenomenon. It's not an individual thing. It's like lemmings to the sea. Why do we always expect help?
Wow, that's a great question. I'd say from a philosophical and consciousness psychology perspective that we want help because that's the easiest thing. I mean, that's how religion is so easy to tell to people is, well, you don't have to, all of your problems, it's because you have original sin and the devil's tempting you. And, that's why you have all these issues. That's why you're an alcoholic. That's why you have a hard time in school. That's why you haven't had a successful job. That's why you're not a good father, whatever the situation may be. And what does that do? It gets you off the hook. Well, I can't change myself anyway, so what's the point? Why bother? So I think that's the big part of the issue is that, if you ask people who wants world change, a big crowd of people, you're going to get everybody raising their hands, right? And then if you say, all right, well, who wants to change? Everybody's going to kind of put their hands down and like, oh man, what's this guy telling? So I think that's part of the thing that's holding us back is that, and it's not everybody. I'm not making any blanket statements here, but we all at times, when faced with the fact that we have to do some work or potentially a lot of work, we shy away from it and we indulge in fantasies or escapist entertainments that allow us to believe, well, maybe we don't have to do that hard work. Maybe somebody else will just do it for us.
Yeah, I think it's a trap that we all fall into. And when it comes to disclosure, what I find interesting is so many, even though it's individualistic, what your definition of disclosure is. I think by and large, most expect disclosure to be given to them, that the government has to have their hands forced. And until that happens, it's not real disclosure. And I totally disagree with that. I don't need, you know what? If POTUS stepped up to the microphone and said E.T. was here, it would be a cool news story for about 15 minutes to me. Because I'm already there. I don't need that type of disclosure. and you are trying to get those to understand just that through stillness, and that's one of the things that I respect. But it's a tough road, isn't it?
Oh, it's really tough. I mean, one thing I've learned in my, brief career of trying to hand people truth or give them information that I thought was the truth. And, I'll be perfectly honest and say, what the heck do I know? I have a pretty good idea of things, but I'm learning too. But one thing I've discovered is that people don't necessarily want the truth, because the truth is dangerous.
Very.
The truth is volatile. The truth is belligerent. It doesn't care what you believe. It doesn't care what your emotions are like. It's going to come dropping in your lap, and your world is going to be destroyed. I mean, one thing that I like to think of and remind myself of is the idea of place. So in psychology, the idea of place is not just a location. It's also your relationship to that location or space. So let's say that you're with your girlfriend and everything's hunky-dory and you're in a good place, and then all of a sudden you pick up her cell phone and you see that her ex so-and-so is calling her, and she told you that she doesn't talk to them anymore. Well, what happens? Your world falls apart for a little bit. You go down the rabbit hole. You fall into the abyss. And now you're in the abyss trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So I think that's a big part of the psychology to look at, is that when we're sharing the truth with people and we talk about full disclosure, which is going to be this massive data dump event, as it's been spoken of by certain people, and that these truths are going to completely change our world. It's really easy to say, yeah, full disclosure now, let's have it tomorrow, let's have all the data tomorrow. But are you really prepared for that? And what can we do now to begin to develop the coping mechanisms to handle this truth once it lands? Because I can tell you, there's things that I found in my research that I'm like, geez, how the heck am I going to tell people about this? Because this is so mind-boggling that, even the most diehard truthers are going to be like, Justin, this is crazy. Don't tell me about this, So that's a big thing to think about.
Yeah, and when you are referring to this, because obviously it makes sense, and it's great to listen to, but for you, what is your source for this teaching? What's the lineage that got you to this point?
Just in general?
No, I mean, do you have a source of this teaching?
Well, not necessarily. I've kind of pulled it from all over. I mean, my knowledge of psychology and spirituality and things like this kind of come from, are synthesized from a whole bunch of different places. So, like mainstream academia, there's a man I post frequently on my blog, Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's somebody in academia that's kind of redeemed my faith in the fact that there could actually be good things coming out of there. He does a lot of amazing work. I mean, there's a lot of good, just general advice about your life and how to live your life and how to align yourself to truth that you can learn from him, although he won't say it in a kind of conspiratorial way. So that's actually a really good source to give people who may not be ready to jump into the tinfoil hat pool, but are kind of dipping a toe in.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the reasons why I just asked that is Don Nee just tweeted out this question in Twitter, and I find it fascinating because I read all of his books. He wants to know, with Carlos Castaneda, if Don Juan was a real person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right?
That is a great question. I guess I'd answer that by saying, does it matter?
When I read the first 4 or 5 books, back to back in the early 80s. And when I got to the end of maybe the 5th book, I closed it and I thought to myself, Carlos made it all up. Right? That's what I thought. And I thought he did it. He put these great ideas and this awakening, this transformation that you can do in an individual way. into a fictionalized story so we could understand it, that we needed to believe that Don Juan was real and that these were all real experiences, but I didn't care. I literally, exactly what you're saying right there. I closed the last book. I'm like, you know what? I'm not buying it. It's creative, but you know what? I got a lot from these books, so I really don't care if Don Juan was real. And that's what I came away from. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Does it really matter? Yeah, that's a really good point.
You know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to speak on this issue a lot, you know, especially with the use of science fiction, you know, there's so much stuff in science fiction that it's so obvious to people like me, anyway, anybody who's studied ufology for any period of time, you're realizing that there really are disclosing things in fiction. But in general, if we think about fiction, one of the things that fiction has the power to do is to dramatize the abstract. And if you look at a lot of the mythical works of old, I read a book, really famous book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Now this is, it's got to be like 6 years now. And kind of what it showed me is that there's these consistent themes in fiction because people need narratives. They need a story. They need a way to flesh out these things that they've got going on inside their heads. You know, how do I become a good person? What does a good person look like? What does good people do when they're faced with hardship and hard situations? Well, if we were to attack that from like a crude or a highly analytical perspective, we may get some answers, but it would be kind of hard to relate to. But you can show somebody a fable or a myth or a movie, or you can give them the Carlos Castaneda books and have them read these things, and they're going to pick up a lot of wisdom just by looking at the fictional work. So this is one of the things that I discovered a few years ago, and I really took to heart, is that it doesn't really matter where the ideas come from. It could be total fabrication, but if the idea is useful, if it actually reflects some aspect of reality that is true, then it's still useful for you, and it doesn't matter whether it was fiction or not.
Yeah, you're right. And if you looked at a large chunk of what Castaneda was doing, it was all metaphor, right? And so if you read it like that, and you just, oh, I get it. Okay, you know what I mean? Because there was so many different parts of his books stuck with me. And he had said one time, he did this a few times in a few different books, but about picking up hitchhikers, right? Don't do it. Be careful. You could be picking up death. Now, not literally, a hitchhiker's going to shoot you with a gun, right? But that you are inviting death into your world. And to be careful about that. And so it's a metaphor. It's like in general in life. But of course, he tells the story. You're driving down the road. You see a hitchhiker. You don't pick him up. You're driving down the road a couple of miles later, and you look, and it's the same hitchhiker, right? It's this dude. And you pass him up, and then suddenly there's a third hit, and it's the same guy. And you're thinking to yourself, is that the same guy or not? And so you turn around and you invite him in. You've just invited death into your car. Right, into your, and now it's a great story, right? It's creepy, it's scary, it's this. It's the same hitchhiker over and over. Is it a ghost? Is it not? What is it? But no, you have to stop and actually see what he is saying with this, and it's just merely a metaphor. But at the time when I'm 18 reading the book, dude, it's like the best science fiction in the world, right?
Oh, exactly. And I mean, anything that has the power to catalyze your consciousness in that way should be respected. I mean, for me, it was I read The Lord of the Rings. That had a big impact on me. But really, more contemporarily, it's been the Urantia book. That book, that was the one in combination with The Law of One that caused me to shed my atheistic shell, and I kind of came out of the spirituality closet then. So I mean that. And that book, I'll say right now, I don't even necessarily know if it's true. There's things I read in that book, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. But then there's other things I read, and I'm like, wow, that was a fantastic piece of wisdom that just came through right here. So yeah, there's all wisdom everywhere we look, as long as we take the time to pull it out of the sand and polish it up a bit.
Yeah, Urantia did the same thing to me too as well. And I thought, this is what, when I read Urantia the first time, I thought, you know what, I could have wrote this book. I could have wrote it. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, some of this feels like it was the Bible that was just kind of rewritten, these things, because it's all elements of how everybody should live a good life, right? How, you know, to know right from wrong. And I just thought, wow, you know, it's so simple. But if you know what I mean, it's so simply written. I mean, the ideas behind it are very simple, but they're life changing. And if you live by these principles, it's all good. And you're absolutely right. Urantia tripped me out, and I read it a couple of times. And the first time I read through it, I was almost tongue in cheek. I didn't take it serious because I thought somebody was it was a hoax. You know, that's what I felt. I felt like somebody was trying to pull the and then, you know, you read it a second time and it's actually words of wisdom and it's really well done. I wish I would have written it. I'm not kidding. I thought that I could have. And I'm not trying to play it off lightly, but I think you understand. And for those that haven't read Urantia, go and read it and check it out, and I think you'll understand exactly what I just said. I'm not making light of the book. I'm just saying it was reworded words of wisdom. Is that the right way to put it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I get what you mean about I could have written it, because when I was reading it, there's so much wisdom packed into it. And it doesn't matter. We could talk about the Law of One. We could talk about the Seth books. We could talk about Don Juan and the Carlos Castaneda books. I mean, anything that has a high amount of truth to it, it's going to resonate with you at a deep level.
That's
shake you to your bones. And that's what it was like for me. And I think this is the reason why the same formula in a lot of fiction is used, the hero's journey archetype in stories, because that is the human story right there. That is where everybody can identify with. And that's why they use this in a lot of movies and fictional works, is because that grabs a lot of people. And I mean, movies in general, that's a great place to learn wisdom if you know how to look for it.
Yeah, you're right. And with the reason why Carlos Castaneda meant so much to me, that I had a friend, a mentor that I looked up to when I was like 18. And I said to him, he was like 25, just graduated college, an excellent artist and cartoonist. That's what he did. We worked together. And I said to him, I said, Tim, how did you get to be so cool? You know, he had the right music, the right record library, you know, everything about him. You know, he drove the right car and just a cool dude. And I come into my office one day and there's a stack of Castaneda books there. And I said, what's this? And he goes, read this and then ask me that question again. And that's how I did the Castaneda thing. And so before I started reading it, I was scared to death. I was like, man, this is going to change my life. Oh, you know, I felt the power of the books.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Now I want to shift a little bit, but I want to talk about E.T., something that is something that you write about all the time. But have you had an experience? Have you seen something in the sky, or did something ever come and visit you? Did you ever have a direct contact?
I have not had a direct contact experience. I've seen, UFOs in the sky that looks pretty compelling. But really, that's the extent of my experience. I've never had a blue orb show up. I haven't seen a reptilian. I haven't seen a gray. I haven't been abducted. I don't have telepathy or anything like that. I'm pretty vanilla, I guess, when it comes to the ET experiences. So I'm definitely looking forward to when that's going to happen.
Now, what did you see in the sky?
I saw, let's see, this was 2013, December. I was in Florida, and it was actually, I went to this event, the Opal meetup gathering, and we were all sitting by the campfire, and we see this light start off on one end of the sky. It's just right below the horizon, or I'm sorry, above the horizon. And then it starts to do this long arc, and it looks like it's moving up and down in like this circular rhythmic pattern. And it moved from one end of the sky almost 180 degrees to the other end, but it stayed just above the horizon when it did it. And it just seemed peculiar to me, like I didn't know what the heck that was, and I couldn't think of an explanation. And everybody I was with thought it was a UFO. I didn't know what the heck it was, so I'm like, okay, this is probably a UFO, something unidentifiable. But to this day, I don't know what the heck it was.
Did it change you? Was it enough to change you? Or was it an epiphany? Did you walk away going, holy crap, there is something going on and I can't explain this, or not?
It actually didn't.
Right.
And I think there's a reason why. There's a concept that was put forth in this other book called Children of the Law of One in the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, and it talked about how everything in life is a part of this kind of spiritual catalyzation process, that all the things you're doing in life, they're meant to help you awaken to yourself and, the universe and all these things. And, as soon as I started hearing about UFOs in my early awakening, I wasn't really sure what the heck was going on, so I started researching it. I came to the conclusion pretty quickly that, well, if they had lied about cures for cancer, then they're definitely lying about UFOs. And I kind of made the logical leap to the existence of extraterrestrials. And that, for some reason, for me, that was enough. Like from that experience, I had my epiphany moment, but it wasn't through seeing anything. And I almost think that, maybe this is like a highfalutin idea, but I almost think that the universe is letting me stay in this type of 40 days in the desert place with ET experiences because I don't necessarily need one, and not seeing one kind of keeps me in the game of looking and researching and things. So I think might be part of it.
When that's a great answer, except were you out when we were doing the night watch and the night vision at Eclipse? Were you there with us?
I was there on Saturday, I think.
Okay.
But I wasn't there the other day.
Yeah. What am I saying? Of course you were there. You and I were standing next to each other and we were sharing my goggles. Right, I forgot.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot about. There was a lot going on that night. Okay, so let's go back. I completely forgot about that, Justin. So then, if I remember correctly, you were there when that flashing orb was up in the sky and moved like 6 times, and then just sat there. You saw that, right? You were standing next to me.
I did, although I couldn't really make it out because I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of smoke and stuff because there was a fire going on. So I could see something when you handed me the goggles, but as soon as I took the goggles off, it was really difficult for me to follow what was happening.
Yeah, well, that's why you use night vision, Justin. That's what it's there for. Yeah, it does make sense. And so when something like that is going on directly above us, and you don't necessarily see it anywhere else you go. You don't see it at home. You don't see it without night vision. But we're sitting there watching this planetary orb object that looks like a star or something is literally moving around in the sky and flashing. That simply is not normal. And when you see that, how do you explain that to somebody that is not only a skeptic, but is thinking that we are crazy, but yet you're watching it for yourself? The scientist, the physicist that is Justin Deschamps.
Yeah, well, that's a tough question. I mean, it kind of comes to the psychology aspect, which is that people's beliefs are the things that they cling on to in order to keep them sane. And depending on how they're raised, which is a whole other discussion, but depending on how used to experiencing new things are, they're going to probably not want to open themselves up to it. I mean, by the time you get to the age of 10 or 12, you've become like a card-carrying skeptic. I don't care who you are. So it's going to be up to the person. And, if you happen to be in a position where you are a believer, you think that extraterrestrials are real and UFOs are real, then I think a good way to broach the topic is just to simply ask questions. Take a kind of like innocent perspective, like, hey, what do you think that is up in the sky right there? And they'll say, well, it's probably just a satellite. And they're like, well, I hear that you think it's a satellite, but it's moving pretty erratically to just be a satellite. Are you sure? What makes you think maybe it's something else? Just get them to be inquisitive, kind of nurture that curiosity. And if you can do that and shepherd somebody through that, if that person can feel safe and vulnerable around you so that they can actually expose their consciousness to new ideas, then you're really going to make a lot of headway for that person. And I think that's a whole other discussion, but I think that's a magic bullet formula that we need to develop as truth sharers, is the ability to get to the people to feel vulnerable and comfortable to expose their inner core, the inner sanctum of their being to new ideas. I think that'd really help us.
Well, and technology is helping us, our community today, to start to prove some of these concepts that we have been talking about for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And like night vision, right? We have that tool right in front of us. Is it getting to be a bit dangerous for the man in that we are now able to prove some of these things that were difficult for us to prove in the past? So their lies, right? Their statements back to us and across the country and through the media that it's a tinfoil hat crowd. These people are crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. They are nuts. But now that isn't the case. Is the man having difficulty now to continue with that dogma?
I think they are, and I think that's why they've started to shift the pattern. I don't know if, you're probably old enough to remember. There was, back in the 90s, any talk of search of extraterrestrials was met with, extreme skepticism. You just didn't hear about it at all. The only place you were ever going to see these kind of things were, in tabloids. And now here it is, 2017, and there's hundreds of exoplanets being discovered every year. The Drake equation was revised a few years ago. It's just being pumped into movies and all the science shows that are kind of like the priesthood of science telling the acolytes what is real and what isn't. These are starting to talk about this idea of extraterrestrials. So I think what's happening is the powers that be knew they weren't going to be able to keep a lid on this thing forever. And now they're kind of in active rollout phase with the whole partial disclosure agenda. And they're trying to twist the agenda into their favor. Admittedly, these guys are masters at mind manipulation. They've been doing it for a really long time. And I'd say that they're probably doing a pretty good job right now.
Well, and now we have the issue of fake news, where 2 years ago, the issue of fake news was nearly a laughable subject. We got through 2016. Now everything is fake news. Right? That's the norm now, right? It is not in their control now. Whatever gets broadcasted by whoever it doesn't even matter. Christian Broadcasting Network, TBN, CNN, NBC, Fox, everything is fake now, and nobody knows what to trust. Right now, we bring in this ET narrative, and if the man wants to do their spin on it, nobody's going to trust that now either. Right? That's what I feel. That's what we're going through.
No, that's a great point, and I think as you say that, what came to mind and insight I got was that pulling the fake news card is a really dangerous thing to do, because you don't necessarily want to tell the people in a living room that there's an elephant there. But as soon as you start saying that there isn't an elephant there, they start noticing that there actually is one.
That's right.
And I think that's kind of what's happening with the news, is that they pulled the fake news card out. Now they're actively starting to call people out on fake news. Well, anybody with half a lick of sense who actually knows how to discern whether or not something's fake or real, and at least in a newsworthy capacity, can look at the mainstream media and say, holy crap, these guys are the biggest pushers of fake news than anybody.
And so how do you, and now, because you're pushing this fake news narrative, and certainly Trump as and I'm not pointing fingers directly at Trump, but that's his favorite 2-word thing to say these days is fake news. Well, now, how do we know what to trust? Right? I mean, is it you? Is it them? Yeah. Are you giving us half-truths? Is everybody else? How do we now know what is real, what is reality, and what isn't? Because you pushed it on us so hard, and now our heads are spinning. And now we don't know who to trust because you're telling us not to trust anybody. Now, where do we start here? And that is a dilemma.
Certainly, and I think you start blowing out the belief system substructure out from people, which is basically what's happening now. I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier in the show that in science they started introducing this relative truth idea into the field, and now that's what, even though there's a lot of validity to what quantum physics studies, quantum physics has kind of become this, well, we can't really tell what anything is, so there's no truth to anything. And now that's being infused in through philosophy, and now that it's completely in the humanities. So now here we are, it's in the mainstream media now, and you can't even trust anybody. You can't trust anything. And what that does is it does two things. It causes a lot of trauma because people don't have good tools of consciousness to make sense of their world. So that's not a beneficial thing.
That's right.
But the other side of it is a silver lining, which is that people are yearning for answers because we are beings, we live on truth. With a spiritual substance that fuels our being is the truth. So you can't really take the desire for truth away from people. You can encourage them not to seek it. You can traumatize them when they reach for it, but they're still going to feel the hunger for truth in their bellies. And I think that's what's happening now, is that even though we're in a really chaotic, turbulent time with fake news and all this, and there's the yearning and desire for information and truthful knowledge is just going to keep growing the more and more we keep destroying the legitimate sources that exist out there.
That's a great spot to take a break. Our guest tonight, Justin Deschamps. StillnessInTheStorm.com is his website. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. This is Fade to Black. More with Justin after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal God on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter, Jimmy Church, at JChurchRadio. Join in on the conversation. As you can imagine, our guest tonight, Justin Deschamps, and the conversation is amazing on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. Use hashtag F2B for the sandbox. And any questions or comments, just use hashtag F2BQ. Now, Justin, this is where we have a bit of a paradox here. When we talk about fake news, and now we have stillness in the storm, and how do people now start to use discernment with you? And maybe you may be fake news, right? How do people know the difference these days? You have that same problem.
Oh, certainly. Well, first of all, let me say I'm happy to announce that towards the end of last year, Stillness in the Storm was branded a fake news website, so I don't have my pride tag up, but I should put it up there.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. It's I would wear that with pride too as well. It was funny. Coast to Coast got branded for it and labeled. Fade to Black came out of it on the clean side. I was hoping for it, but the thing is our website, we don't have a news section. We used to, and we stopped that for a variety of different reasons. It had nothing to do with fake news. It was just we didn't have the time to stay on top of it, right, and to update it all day long, every day. So
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, so we don't. It's very difficult. So we escaped that, but I would have worn that badge with pride. But
exactly.
Yeah, thankfully we didn't. And so all of our posts out there on the web haven't been branded. But that, like I said, you now have that problem that everybody else has a problem with today, because nobody knows what to trust anymore. And you being a broadcaster, a writer, a journalist of truth, right? That's what you're saying, but you've got that problem now. Fake news. Nobody knows what to believe anymore.
Right. Well, discernment is a huge question. We could arguably have like 3 shows just on discernment.
That's where I'm going right now. You knew that. See, that we're vibing, man. We're vibing because that is the other D word, right? Discernment. And I talk about it all the time, but I'm not so sure if everybody understands the true meaning of the word. What's your definition of discernment?
Well, I would say discernment is simply the capacity to judge well or accurately. So when somebody presents a claim to us, maybe they're saying a UFO landed in their backyard. So the question is, how do we judge the situation? How do we know that they're telling the truth? And then why do we know that they're telling the truth? And there's even more questions we can ask, but simply put, discernment is the ability to judge well. It's the ability to say, well, this story is true and this one isn't, and here are the reasons why, and all this. So how does discernment actually happen? Well, first of all, let me say that as much as I try to share truthful information, there's kind of two sides to my website, Stillness in the Storm. There's the storm side of it, which is all the articles that I share from other people, like Cobra or Corey Good or David Wilcock, or I share from all sorts of places. There's always all sorts of raw information out there. So that's the storm side of it. And then there's the stillness side of it. That's when I write something. That's when I put my 2 cents into it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm saying is the unquestioned truth. I'm just saying that there's a distillation process. And I think that's the model, or that's the message that I'm trying to share when it comes to discernment of information in general. It's a alchemical distillation process. You have to take raw material, you have to break up that raw material, boil it, break it down, add a few ingredients here and there, take the essence that rises to the surface and then put that in a little jar and say, okay, this is what I think is happening. That's the discernment right there. So how we do that, real briefly, because I could talk for hours about this, but very briefly, when you hear a claim, so you're reading a news story, the news story is going to tell you something. It's going to say, for example, that a UFO landed on the White House lawn and Donald Trump got out and waved to the ETs that came out. Okay, so that's the story. Well, so then you, as a person reading the story, you got to ask yourself, how do I know that what is presented in this story is true or not? Well, the temptation is often to ask, well, what does everybody else say? What do the experts say? But if you rely on expert opinion, are you really relying on your own discernment, or are you just relying on somebody else's discernment? And the answer is that you're relying on somebody else's discernment. So you got to take a personal approach when it comes to discernment. How do I know what I know? How do I know that this news story is true? Well, you can try to corroborate it with some other sources. Maybe you find that the news story was not only shared on my website, but it was shared on CNN or Fox News or Reuters. Well, now it seems to have more credibility, right, because it's shared by more people. But does that make something true? If a magician is doing a trick inside a stadium and there's 50,000 people watching and they all think that he cut a woman in half just now, does that make it true just because a whole bunch of people believe it? No, not at all. So coherence with people only gets you so far. It's just one more breadcrumb. And ultimately, what makes something true is, does the claim match reality? And then the next question to ask is, what can I do to personally verify as much as humanly possible so I can get a really good understanding of what I think is happening?
And then we have this other phenomenon that combines with all of this that we've been speaking about tonight, not only fake news and disclosure and discernment, but is this. When we talk about the, and I never like to use these words, the powers that be, right? You can go back and you can listen to 700 shows, 800 shows, and you will never have heard me say that once. I avoid it. And this is why. when we talk about the Illuminati or the cabal or these dark forces and what they are doing with the world today and controlling the media and the economy and the World Bank and it goes on and on and on and on. And then we have Washington and our president start to say the deep state, they want to control me. They want to do this. And it's like, wait a minute. Now we step back here and go, that deep state conversation was left to the alternative conspiracy theorist community. That was our world. And now we have the White House, the Oval Office, saying those words, deep state. Now our collective has to step back and go, wait a minute. This is going to push me over the edge, man. This was supposed to be my fantasy. Now you're saying it's true? Holy crap. Now we've got a real problem on our hands. Is this conspiracy? Is this Alex Jones, or is it real? And you are the president. You need to help us here. There's fake news, and deep state was supposed to be off to one side, discussed with the alternative communities. Now you're telling us it's real. Now where does discernment come in? And I'm going to ask you, Justin, what do we do with this information?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and you have to take those individually. So, if to discuss the issue of the deep state, this is an idea that's been bandied around for a while now, but only recently did it get termed in that way, deep state. So, I think at first glance, the fact that the president is mentioning the deep state and shadow government and fake news it seems like a pretty encouraging thing. Like, well, somebody in power actually knows about these things.
Right.
Okay. Well, then the next question is, what are they going to do about it? And I don't necessarily know if that Donald Trump or anybody who gets in the White House is going to do anything good about it. I mean, this part of the MO of the powers that be, to use that term, is they do a lot of market research. They do a lot of testing to see where they can move society towards. And any time they can bring something out of the closet and put it in the public view, but do it in a way where people don't really recognize what they're seeing, that's going to be something they're going to want to do. And the reason why is the best place to hide something is in plain sight. And we could talk for hours about that topic alone, but I think that's the discernment question we need to ask ourselves. Is it's really easy to look at the move towards disclosure of extraterrestrial life and to look at the move towards the disclosure of the deep state and the shadow government and think, well, it seems like we're moving in a good direction. Or they could just be bringing these things out in the open and hiding them in plain sight because they're going to continue to be up there, but now it's going to be even harder because now we have a layer of normalization to work through when we talk about these things to people. So we got to attack things from different angles. It's really, when it comes down to it, is there are no black and white answers. There's a lot of gray area. There's a tiny little bit of really sure things that I'm 100% or close to 100% certain of. There is a little sliver on the other side of things that I'm 100% certain of that don't exist, and then there's this ocean of uncertainty in between. And navigating that properly is the challenge right there.
Do you think that let's just talk about the United States instead of a global situation. Let's just talk about the United States. We have the two coasts, East Coast and West Coast, where I think that there's a connection to not only the internet but knowledge, and they are staying on top of things when it comes to politics or the possibility of the deep state. Then we have the central part of the United States, where they may not be on top of the political storms that are going on. They may not care about North Korea. They may not care about ET. They may not even know what the word disclosure is. And we're talking about 95% of the country. They don't have any idea what we are talking about, and they are going to work every day. They're completely disconnected, and they don't care about the politics of the world or what is going on. And I don't think I'm too far off base here, right? They may not have any, they're not concerned at all. And if you went in to speak to these people about these subjects, they wouldn't have a clue. And I'm talking about nearly 100%. You know, that is the big chunk of the population. And that's one of my fears. Am I off base with thinking like that?
Well, I mean, I think you could easily make the argument that the vast majority of the population of people aren't on the truth-seeking journey, and even a lot of the people who do say that they're awake just hopped from one belief system to the next after they had an awaken-up experience. So they may not be truly on the awakening path. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's hopeless either. I mean, one of the things that I've kind of learned and taken away from my early truth-seeking is, you know, I was a guy in 2011, I was going to tell you about cures for cancer, the Illuminati, and extraterrestrials all within 5 minutes. And, you know, you're going to be awake now and you go on your merry way. Well, that didn't work out as I thought. And what I learned is really that sharing the truth with people is a lot more about, if you are in a position where you actually have spent the time to learn about a subject and you can converse and articulate yourself and you can present these ideas, then the burden is on your shoulders. It's kind of like an adult-child relationship where you have to slowly get to know somebody, know what their interests are, begin to drop in little seeds and drips of wisdom and truth into their minds in a way that they're willing to look at it and capable of interpreting, and then slowly nurture that, like we were talking earlier about allowing them to be vulnerable to the point where now, after you've developed that relationship with somebody and they know they can trust you, now you can start to drop a little bit bigger ideas in there. And then eventually they're just going to take the ball running and roll with it. So you have that ability to work with other people. And I mean, Jimmy, that's what you do. You have a radio show. That's kind of what your whole gig is.
And and now let's take that idea and let's flip it over. Now let's look at the soft white underbelly here. Let's say that 90% of the country is getting it. Right? They are waking up. They realize that the mass media is fake and the news is fake and there is a deep state and everything that you have been taught is wrong. Right? Let's say we're successful in that and that stillness in the storm is what everybody needs to read every single day and that the truth will set you free. Now, and that's what we want, right? That's what we want from Fade to Black. That's what we want from is that dangerous? Is that too much? Is it would it be just overwhelming if they do get it and they do understand, right? Is that a dangerous zone to go into?
Well, I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I mean, in regards to the whole partial versus full disclosure thing, I mean, that is the issue at hand here, and I think that's a valid one. I mean, according to Corey Good, for those who don't know, there's a kind of a battle happening between camps, and so one group is trying to push for a full disclosure, which is the total release of all hidden information in a fairly quick period of time, and another group is pushing for 100 years slow drip disclosure. And the partial disclosure camp is arguing that to disseminate the whole truth to the masses too quickly is irresponsible. And, you know, I know this is going to be an unpopular thing, but to be perfectly honest, I think they're right. We do need to think about how we disclose this information. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I am personally advocating for the partial disclosure agenda, but what I do think we need to do, and what we haven't done yet as a community, although I think we're very capable of, is organizing to develop a real plan for how disclosure can happen. I mean, the truth, as we were mentioning earlier, is so powerful that we need to be careful about how we disseminate it. I mean, to speak to more directly your question, if there was 90% of the population that was actively seeking this type of information, and they were coming to Jimmy Church, and they were Stillness in the Storm, I mean, Jimmy, tell me you wouldn't feel the pressure a little bit. You have like 90% of the population beating down your door, asking for answers, tell us the secrets of the universe. tell me you're not going to feel the pressure.
Yeah, and I have often thought how great it would be if we had a president that listened to these types of ideas. And I'm just going to let you guys know we just crashed right there. So I'm going to bring Justin up on another line right now. Unbelievable. It's just right at that moment. And I'm not going to break to a commercial. I'm just going to do this right now, and I'm going to go directly. Everybody's watching me do this on the bunker cam. See, let's see here. This is how we do it, and especially with you gotta go with the punches here. You gotta go with the flow. I don't freak out anymore. But right as Justin was bringing up that point, I'm just going to say screen number 1 over here went blue screen. So now I've got to go to this one, and then I'm going to roll back over. So I'm watching this respond here. Come on, Justin. You can do it, brother. You can do it. I think I got him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. That was weird. Right as you said that, blue screen. That was trippy. That was
really?
That was kind of cool, man. I kind of dug that. And so let me go back to my original point that I was making as it jumped to blue screen. And because of I'm going to get you to hang on for some overtime tonight anyway. But it's like be careful what you wish for, right? And so we have. I've always wondered what it would be like to have a president in office that understood different conspiracy theories, that understood what the Illuminati or the deep state or the cabal was and was going to fight that for us, that was going to get it. And now it appears that we have that situation in place. And I'm wondering if our country and the world can handle things like those statements that Trump is saying right now. Hey, man, the deep state wants me out. The deep state is trying to control me. Let's drain the swamp. Let's do. And I think it's a bit too much all at once. I'm wondering if collectively sanity can stay in play here, because it's a rough, hard thing for a lot of people to digest all at one time. I think we're asking a bit too much, even though it's what we've wanted, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the big question is, if you really got what you wanted, could you handle it? And I think this is a question that we would all benefit from sitting down and contemplating, and then working together in kind of a think tank capacity to answer. Like, how would we handle full disclosure if we were in charge? And we seem to have a situation where, and I don't know this for sure, but looking at everything that Trump's done, we may have the best shot we've had in the past 60, 70 years.
Yeah, I agree.
So what do we,
I agree.
What are we doing with that opportunity?
Over the last 4 or 5 years, especially 3 years ago, 2 years ago, this was my dogma. Take the news that you're reading, flip it over 180 degrees, read it backwards, and you'll be closer to the truth. That's all you got to do, everybody. So that was I would preach that, right? I would preach at the Church of Jimmy and preach it. And then all of a sudden 2016 comes along and everybody suddenly was able to go, well, you know what? Church was actually right. Okay. Holy crap. And I'm sitting back, seriously, Justin, going, did I really want this to come true? It was more fun when I was, poking, making a joke of it. And now, as it came to pass, I had to sit back and go, man, I'm hoping everybody can get through this okay, because it may be too much for everybody to handle. Because now we have the president telling everybody the news is all fake, right? It was like, I got the best backup that I could want on this, right? I got the best I'm vindicated, but it may be too much.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to ask for. And I mean, sitting down and thinking carefully about what full disclosure means. I mean, just think, everybody's listening to this show right now, think about some, major truth that you've learned in your own life. And then ask yourself, how are you going to tell your 5 closest friends about this? And in a way that you actually think that they're going to take you seriously. How do you think they're going to handle it? And I mean, I'll be honest and say that I've tried to talk to my friends about crazy truths before, and their eyes gloss over. They don't necessarily absorb what I'm processing, and if they even do absorb what they're processing, there's usually a strong reaction, and it's not a good one. So that doesn't mean it's hopeless, though. That there is a technique, there is a method here. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we can look throughout history, and maybe this is a conversation for another time, but the idea of a mystery school and what they were doing is they had mastered the technique and process by which you entice somebody to take an interest in the mysteries or the truth, and then you test their mettle or their resolve for how well they're actually going to follow the truth using various initiation rites. Well, we don't have to go the route of the Freemasons. That's not what I'm suggesting here. But what I am suggesting is that since the thing that is being worked on here is consciousness, then through the study of consciousness, through the study of philosophy, psychology, and most importantly, law, then we can really understand how to tackle these massive global problems. And, to touch on law real quick, it seems like this really dry, dusty thing, and it is to a certain extent, but the mechanism, the secret behind the universe's order, all of the beauty that's in nature, all of the beauty that's all around us, is law. That's the magic recipe. That's the thing that's going to give us the tools to create a post-full disclosure world where everybody's not just sucking their thumbs and curled up in a ball on their beds. That's the thing that's going to allow us to develop systems that actually make the world a better place, not just for the next generation, but for the generations on into the ages to come.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we can't be so egotistical to think that it's all here. It's all centered around Earth. It's all centered around us. It has nothing to do with everything else that is out there. Actually, the opposite is true. We are bound by the same laws as every place else in the universe. That's it. It wasn't created here. Justin, hang on. Let's do a few minutes of overtime tonight. And if you don't mind, I know you're on the East Coast, but let's do another 10, 15 minutes here. Fade to Black, our guest tonight, Justin Deschamps. And it has been one of those conversations. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl, Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I knew it was going to be this kind of night with Justin Deschamps tonight. Absolutely amazing conversation. And don't worry, everybody. With the we're going to edit out some of the technical difficulties that we had earlier tonight. And I do think that with the CME that's about to bombard us over the next 24 to 48 hours, that there is going to be a lot of electronic communication disrupted around the planet. And Justin, over the weekend, I don't know if you caught this, but there are some purely scientific websites and news organizations around the world over the weekend that were talking about the communication that is probably happening right now with fast radio bursts. And I talk about it all the time. But here we have this chatter going on in the scientific community and astronomers around the world that there are a couple of stars right now that are really exhibiting some strange phenomena with fast radio bursts. And this is what I'm expecting. You know, we're having this chatter, fast radio bursts, and it's going on. And oh, by the way, ET is real. Right? It's just like I'm expecting it, man. And as I say this, Dan out of Australia just said just that. Oh, by the way, aliens are real, handled. It feels like that.
There you go.
Yeah, we're right on the brink of this. Are you watching this fast radio burst chatter that's going on with the scientific community?
I haven't been following it too closely, but I am familiar with it, and it is interesting. It seems to be one of these, it almost feels like a marketing campaign or something. They're like testing the waters, maybe even within the scientific community. So maybe this isn't even for us, the consumer public. It might be within the science community itself, them trying to see, okay, well, how can we're going to drip something that kind of throws a wrench in their gears, and we'll see where they go with it. And we're going to try to lean them towards a disclosure narrative and see what happens, because I think these programs have been running for so long and in so many areas. It's not like they're just going to pull back the curtain and poof, we're going to live in a post-disclosure world. I think there's going to be a lot of the back work and cleaning out that needs to be done, even to get the partial disclosure agenda pushed through.
Yeah, because if the media continues down this path and the scientific community continues this kind of media announcement that when by the way, aliens are real drop comes in, the impact is going to be completely softened. Right? It has been there for so long now, and I'm talking about the last 3, 4, 5 years. Exoplanets, fast radio bursts, laser, the alien megastructure, these things, right? It's pretty fascinating to me to see this constant barrage. That when the big one does drop, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I feel this manipulation of the mind. I really do.
Oh yeah, I mean it's apparent. If you studied any type of psychological warfare tactics in the past, this is an old MO that they've been using for a really long time, and there's a reason why, because it works. The mind works by looking at a piece of novelty, looking at something new, figuring out what the heck the new thing is, and then putting it in a different place and category so that you don't even pay attention anymore. And unfortunately, I can't show you a diagram, but with the way new information has been tracked using, I think it's a magnetometer where they take these diodes and they hook it up to your brain to see what parts of your brain are firing. Well, when you show somebody something new, the right brain gets really excited. There's a ton of electrical activity in the back area of the right brain, and then it moves up towards the front of the brain with the prefrontal cortex. It's being organized and assessed and folded into your knowledge base, and then eventually it becomes this faint little glimmer that goes right back into the back of the head, the cerebellum. And I think that it's that same type of modality that they're going to be using. They're going to show us something, they're going to put it all over the news, they're going to tell us about it in fast radio bursts and alien megastructures, whatever the topic is. And then when the big one finally hits, it'll be like nobody even notices anything happens. And that's exactly what they want, nobody to notice, nobody to take it seriously.
IPD just posted in Twitter. He wants to know if you've been involved with the mystery school. Would you even tell us if you were?
Wouldn't you like to know?
I know. Yeah. The nervous laughter, right?
Right, yeah. Of course not. Jimmy, you can't ask me these things. I thought we talked about this off the air.
Right.
No, I am not involved in the mystery school. I have never been a Freemason. I was a Boy Scout at one time. I don't know if that qualifies. But no, I haven't been involved in the mystery school, although I have studied them. I wouldn't say extensively, but I've studied them enough to get the gist.
Yeah, the talk about mystery schools, once you dip your toe in that water, to use that analogy again twice in this show, to dip your toe in that water, one has to ask, where is the evidence of the mystery schools? Well, certainly, if the mystery schools are real, which they are, there's no question about it, there's no way that you would be able to find evidence of it. You can't go and register. You can't go and apply. You would have to be invited, and the whole, just calling it mystery school right there will tell you that you wouldn't be able to find evidence of it. Otherwise, it's not successful. Then they wouldn't be real.
Oh, exactly. And there's a reason why that technique works for thousands of years, and they're actually using it to this day. And the technique is you don't write anything down. All knowledge is passed verbally from master to initiate. And unless you know the wink, wink, nod, nod, handshake, whatever it happens to be, you don't have a need to know. And that's exactly how the deep black, unacknowledged special access programs are run. It's all verbal. It's all need to know. Nothing's written down or codified anywhere. And if it is, it's all through double coded project names. So they're using this mystery school tradition, this passing of knowledge from person to person right now. So it's something that, we can look at it a bunch of different ways.
And another aspect of this, which I think is even more not only enticing but scares the crap out of me, is alchemy. And I'll tell you why. The real alchemist, the real alchemy, that real world is something that you will never find out. Ever. I have talked to some very, very smart people when it comes to this area. And I have found out some just fun, interesting, and scary information all at the same time. I go and try to look further into some of this information that I've been given, and I'm telling you right now, 100%, that information is not out there. You cannot find it in any form. Not, not on YouTube, not on somebody's website, not, the real stuff that I have been told about. It's very interesting to me, Justin. That information is not out there, not one word of it. And that's the part that scares me. I find it fun and interesting and scary at the same time. They have been able to control it at every level because they're supposed to. That information is not out there. And anybody that tells you that they know the truth about alchemy and it's in a video on YouTube, no, it just doesn't exist.
Sure. Well, I mean, alchemy is actually a really good example of how powerfully they've been able to hide really deep concepts in plain sight. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know the secret of secrets when it comes to alchemy, but one thing I picked up from my studies into it is that there's the, turning of lead into gold concepts that the alchemists were they were like the primordial chemists. Basically, they were messing with substances, trying to figure out gold. And that's like the cover story, really.
It's the cover story. Yeah. Right, that's the Snow White version of it.
Precisely. So I mean, and this is a secret, like you were just saying. I mean, they've been keeping this secret for a really long time. I mean, some of the estimates I've heard is pre-Atlantean, they had these alchemical secrets. So we're talking like 30, 40,000 years now, and here it is, we're living in the post-apocalyptic age where the mysteries of the ages are at our fingertips through the internet, and it's still incredibly difficult to find any hard answers, and yet the tradition is still alive because there are people who actively practice it. So that's how it just goes to show you how easy it is to hide information, because when nobody's looking, that's the other thing too, is that a lot of the information is out there. A lot of these secrets are out there in a form, and the truth is self-evident in general, but if you're not looking, then you're not going to find it.
Yeah, it was one of the most fascinating things for me, Justin, where I was through a couple of different people, very, very smart people, where I had some conversations that were so heavy and so deep, I backed up and went, whoa. I mean, it's so far out and so, but I've never heard anything like it before. Crazy. And I know that there's people out there that are going, church, what are you talking about? I can't get into those details. I can't, and not on this show. But as I went and decided to go and find out more, there was absolutely nothing to be found. Nothing. And that's the part that scared me. It's fun, but it's absolutely mind-blowing. The real alchemy, the real stuff is not out there, and you will not be able to go and investigate it yourself. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist out there in the real world. And it's so scary and so dark. But at the same time, like the mystery schools, the real truth about the mystery schools and how that is handed down and do they exist and what they are, you know what? It's not out there for you to find. You can't go and research and have fun with the subject because the real knowledge and the real existence is not out there for you to go and find.
Precisely. Yeah, we live in a manufactured reality. Everything that you see out in your daily life or on the internet or anything like that, in some way, shape, or form, has been allowed to exist or was put out there to lead us astray or something like that. So
I just read the I've just read the funniest tweet in the history of Fade to Black. And it was it was Jordan Sather, right? He just tweeted Jordan. Yeah, right. Jordan just tweeted, "You won't find alchemy secrets on YouTube except on my channel." Oh, Jordan, you are funny, man. It's a scary thought. And there's one other thing that I want to touch upon really quick when we're talking about discernment. The power of the internet, the power of social media, the power of Twitter has been figured out by the man. Trigger words, the ability to steer consciousness in one direction by millions of people at a time in nanoseconds. It has been figured out by the man. And so it's something that you have discussed quite a bit, but how does one use discernment when we are dealing with our world, our community? Because now the negativity has been forced back and forth now. It's been forced, and we watch it. People are people that are really enlightened and awakened are also getting pissed off and are angry at this person or angry at this subject. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be a subject. And it's swinging back and forth now. The power of the internet is right there. How do we use discernment before we retweet? How do we use discernment before we post a link to a video? How do we do that? Because that is now contributing to the negativity out there. You are now part of what you are complaining about, right? How do we start to use the discernment in our own community?
Well, I think really simply, you got to do your homework and do your due diligence. I mean, if you're going to share something, do the amount of homework it takes to verify as much as you possibly can about this. And then when you present this information, present it honestly. Unless you know for certain that Donald Trump saw an extraterrestrial last week, then don't present it as if you do know for certain. Be like, in my estimation, this is what I think is happening based on this source who said this. You know, when you're discerning properly, you know where the information came from, what it says, and how well you can rely on it. And you're open to receiving more information and recognizing the fact that your knowledge is limited. So, you know, be honest when you share information. Present it with integrity. Present it with precision. Present it in a way that doesn't try to make any grand overarching statements where you're, well, you know, he didn't say that he definitely knew that there was a UFO, but I definitely know, so I'm just going to say it as if he definitely knew. When you do that, you're kind of muddying the waters, and that effect tends to propagate. So the guy who didn't really do his homework when he shared that tweet from Donald Trump about UFOs landing on the lawn last week, you know, that video went viral, and now all of these people had to spend their time for an hour trying to figure out if this story was real when it wasn't real to begin with, and they could have been nipped at the bud, so to speak. So, you know, just be honest with yourself as much as you can, and especially when you're sharing information with other people.
Yeah, and that's what's dangerous here. If you are going to complain about either a subject or a person or the community in general, and then you turn around and you are part of the propagation of the negativity, then you need to understand how this starts. It starts with everybody, and the power of the internet, it can spread like a disease so quickly, and then you want to complain about the problem. Well, wait a minute. It just may be you. You as an individual are part of the problem. And if you go and start to propagate this, because it only takes a few seconds to get negativity to spread, you know. So what is it? You know, And it's so hard to get people to step back and understand that maybe you are part of the problem, because they may be the nicest people in the world, right? And I really mean that. They may be the coolest, warmest, beautiful person in the world. But if you go, you need to be aware of what you are sharing. What is it that you are about to do? Because then you become part of the problem. And maybe you need to just step back and be an observer instead of an active participant.
I think that's some great advice. I mean, if you're triggered, whether positively or negatively, and then you're going to go from that triggered reactive place and go and try to present information in an objective, clear, and concise way, you're not in the right place. I mean, you got to take a step back. I mean, shoot, there's times when I see information, I get really excited and like, oh wow, this could be something real. And then I have to take a step back and be like, well, wait a minute, let me play the devil's advocate here. Let me try to look at it from all sides and have an honest appraisal of the situation. And when I do that, I usually am very thankful because, I was a little bit reactive. So give yourself the leeway, give yourself that opportunity to take a step back, to take a few deep breaths and be like, what am I really trying to accomplish here?
That's exactly it. And I want to thank you. Seriously, Justin, Stillness in the Storm, and you know this, but it is something that I use and I read daily, and it takes up a lot of my time, but I do. and that's exactly the point here. I think for all of us, we just need to just take a step back, take a deep breath, and try to figure out what's really going on. And you have been a big part of that. And I just want to thank you. It's a lot of work. You've caught an enormous amount of flack over the, and you know why? The reason, Justin, and I know sometimes it's hard to understand this, the only reason why you do is because you matter. And that's it. And if you didn't matter, nobody would care. So therefore, you matter. I'm honored. Yeah, and those out there, that negativity is because you matter. And always remember that. Thank you so much, Justin. And I can't wait to see what you're going to present to the world tomorrow. Again, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate having you, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah, and we'll do it again very soon. Thank you so much, Justin. There you go, everybody. Justin Deschamps. And the website is stillnessinthestorm.com. If you go, if you have issues, just click on his website right there, jimmychurchradio.com. And before I let everybody go, this was an enlightening conversation tonight. But discernment is an important attribute to practice. One of the things that I have observed over the last, 4 or 5 years of doing this is I have seen over and over again, not any one individual, from people that I respect too as well, that are triggered or go and react or retweet or post to YouTube or get involved in conversations out there in social media and like and share and then complain about it, about what is going on in our own community. You have to understand that just maybe you may be part of it and you don't even realize it, that you are contributing to not only negativity, but also disinformation or the passing of, because you want to show others, hey, this is wrong, so I'm going to post this. Well, actually, that is getting into the wrong hands. And then that gets passed down the line. And what you thought was innocent and interesting at first, trust me, after it leaves your hands and gets shared and retweeted and reposted and reliked and so forth, that is exactly what part of the problem is. And it was your good intentions actually, in the end, once it goes down the pipeline, turns into bad stuff. So just be careful. What is it that you are about to click or like or retweet or video that you're about to post? You know, that's the one thing that may contribute the most to negativity. And it's not only inside of our community, but if you think about the way that the fake news run happened last year was just that it wasn't even true to begin with. But the way that the internet works right now and the way that Twitter works, boom, and somebody gets a hold of it and it takes off and it gets legs, you are part of it. And it's such an important thing to just stop and take a look and maybe take a deep breath, just like Justin said, take a deep breath here. What is it that I am about to do? It is so interesting. Now, also, I've got to run here. Tomorrow night, Teresa Yanaros is going to be here, and we're going to continue. It will be day 2 of our Age of Disclosure week. That'll be tomorrow night. Also, first-time guest, somebody that I really enjoy being around, and her take on so many different subjects. But it's also part of the next generation of what is going on here. Just like Justin, tomorrow night is going to be Teresa. Thursday night, Gerald O'Donnell is going to be here, one of the pioneers of remote viewing, but how to use it in your world and what is going on with it. Again, a first-time guest on Thursday. But I want to touch upon this because this story has been going around the internet. And do I have enough time to do this? Yes. The North Carolina man that was accused of killing his wife in a cough syrup-induced stupor over the last couple of days is an aspiring preacher and Star Wars devotee who had a lightsaber fight at his wedding. Now, more information emerged today about Matthew Phelps, who was accused of stabbing his wife, Lauren, several times after taking a over-the-counter cough syrup medication called Coricidine. Now, a cough syrup medicine. He admitted to authorities he took the medicine because it made him feel good and would help him sleep. But then he woke up in the middle of the night, covered in blood, called 911 and said, "Hey, I've got blood on my hands. I found a knife in my bed. I think I just stabbed my wife." And it turns out he was an aspiring preacher. There's more to this story that has been developing and will continue to develop over the next couple of days. But it is absolutely fascinating. And can it be used as a defense? Over-the-counter cough medicine. Absolutely crazy story. And I know that the media has been making fun about this, but there is something to it. Unbelievable. All right, that concludes another great episode of Fade to Black. Thank you, Justin Deschamps. StillnessInTheStorm.com. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Faded by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is only copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Teresa Yanaros, right here. But until then, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.